Here we are, it's range day. Before I actually get into shooting the revolver, I made a couple more modifications to it, and you'll see why right here. Before we get to the actual shooting portion of this video, I kind of wanted to let everybody know that I went ahead and cut into the step here so that the hammer would rest deeper into the safety notch. I know I did it because it is aesthetically pleasing to me. But here's the issue that I ran into. This particular cylinder has no proof marks. Yep, that's right, no proof marks. So I went ahead and did all 6. I just kind of wanted to show it before I blew it so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here. If you're going to do this, do not go below the line of where the ratchet is. When you look at the base of these, you'll see exactly how the ratchets are made, or the slots for the ratchets. Don't go below that. Just kind of stay just a hair above it, and you will probably see that, you know, you'll have a little bit of a gap. They're not going to meet, you know, and be perfect. You'll have a little bit of a line right there, as you can see my screwdriver pointing to them. And I just wanted to show this before they got reblued, so you kind of get a better feel of what you should be anticipating if you're going to do this. Now, something else that I went ahead and did, it was kind of an afterthought, but I did it anyways. If you take a look at my hammer on my sheriff's model, you will see that on the bottom right here, it makes a 90-degree turn right here, or 45, 90, what? Yeah, 45 right here, if I got that right. Pardon me if my math is off. But what I did is I took the hammer and I took and ground that point off. You don't want to go very deep with it towards the top of the hammer, just simply because you don't want to be taking off any portion that would strike the cap. And like I said, since this was an afterthought, what I did is I cocked my .44 caliber back and I looked at the hammer to see where it would naturally strike the percussion cap. And if you do that, you can kind of get a feel for how far up one might want to go with taking off that lip. Now, when you take that lip off, in conjunction with what you're going to carve out of the step or file out of the step, your hammer will sit a lot deeper in those grooves. There again, it's more aesthetics than it is anything else. But if you put your hammer and work your hammer, you know, with a good light source and see how it sets, you can actually see how much of this ledge would really, not the ledge, but the corner of your hammer would need to come off. Just something to think about there, friends. If this is what you're going to do, you have a visual aid, you know, what you're looking at. All right, let's get back and see just how well this Navy shoots. Okay, I want to show real quickly, as part of the quality control issue, this particular firearm, when they cut the barrel to length, they never recut the crown. It's just pretty much flat. And every time I say, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up or not, I go in and edit the video and the camera picks it up just fine. So I'm going to quit saying that, at least for the time being. But if you kind of focus on that crown, it's just cut flat, and it looks like all anybody did was just take a little bit of sandpaper and just work to deburr it. But there is no crown to speak of. Whereas in my Sheriff's model 44 caliber, if I hit the sun and reflect just right, you can see that there's actually a crown at the end of the barrel. It's not very much of a crown, but there's one there. So if you go on YouTube and type in, the search engine, how to re-crown a gun barrel, there's a whole lot of videos showing how to do this. So I'm going to get repositioned and we'll show you how I'm going to do it. So I got a tube of valve grinding compound and I have a carriage nut, 1/4 What I did is I actually went through the drawer of the carriage bolts and I was actually able to find one that didn't have any letters stamped on top. If you happen to find one that does, just take some sandpaper and sand it all down smooth. It's probably better to get something like this in brass or a brass acorn nut if you can find it. I couldn't. So I'm going to go ahead and use this with lots of valve grinding compound, and I've also shoved a rag into the barrel so that when I get done I can just reach in there and pull it out and bring all the valve grinding compound out at the same time. Alright, so I'm going to get started. Just insert it into the drill and then just go to work with it. And you can pivot it because it should be able to cut just a perfect circle. And basically the only reason for doing this is to ensure you have a smooth exit with the round ball coming out of the front of the gun, and it also disperses the flame a little bit better, in my opinion. And no, I've never done this before, so this is a new experience for me. And I'm going to keep lots of valve grinding compound on the carriage bolt. Okay, so what I'm going to do to finish off the job is just take some 400 grit sandpaper and just work it in the muzzle like this, and then I'm going to go up to 1000 grit. And to make sure that everything is really good, take a Q-tip, run it in and out of the edges, and double check to see if there's any little bits of cotton left behind. If there is, then just work at it with your 1000 grit until it's perfectly smooth. Just a little quick note regarding homemade percussion caps. Another reason why I like using homemade percussion caps is because we all know that when we clean our revolvers after a shooting session, we go back and oil things up. Before we shoot the revolvers again, we usually snap off 6 caps to clean out any residual oil. Well, I prefer to use my homemade caps as opposed to factory caps. If you think about it, you'll end up snapping off several caps throughout the course of a tin just to clean out the oil. So why not just use your homemade caps to do that? So let's see if they work. Don't hold your breath. you know, not 100% perfect, but they work. So what I'm going to do, this particular shooting range, instead of starting out at 18 grains and working up and see what it does, I'm just going to go flat out for 25 grains, a pre-lubricated wad, and a .380 round ball. So I'm going to get loaded up, turn the camera back on, and we'll see how it does. 25 grains, 3F Schutzen with a 380 round ball, number 10 percussion caps. Before I shoot the revolver, I just want to also let you know what I did to the front sight, because typically on these Remingtons you have a curved sight. So what I did is I beveled it backwards towards the front of the revolver, and I left just a hair of what would be the curve. I took some 1000 grit sandpaper and just buffed off the bluing. So I have a flat spot that is actually shiny. That's going to be my, obviously, post, the front sight, and I'm going to bury it low in the front sight, and we'll see where it shoots from there. Then once I get the sixth shot, I'll go ahead and turn the camera and we'll zoom in on the target and see where they printed. Alright, let's go take a look. I'll tell you, I'm not going to do too much with the sights until I get about 100 rounds through it, because I want that barrel good and seasoned. So let's see what kind of grouping we got. And I was aiming as best as I could at the center of the red circle. Well, it looks like all 6 shots are right there. Not bad for the first 6 rounds. I am shooting at 16 yards, so I'm going to load it up again and see what happens. Okay, the next round is going to be 20 grains. The reason why I elected to do that, because I wanted to see for myself the difference between 25 grains and 30 grains as the loading lever is seating the round ball. Now if you look at this, and if you have one of these, you'll see that there's a step right here for when they milled the loading lever from 44 caliber down to 36. When they do that, they leave a step right here. So I wanted to see for myself the depth of this loading lever between the 25 grain and the 20 grain. I'm a little concerned about loading up 18 grains, because with 18 grains I'm thinking this actually becomes a stop, and we're not getting equal amount of compaction every time we load these revolvers. And with that being stated, I can see a huge difference in the depth of the round ball between the 25 grain and the 20 grain. And loading the 20 grain, I'm almost at that step. That's something you might want to look at when you load these guns up, when you're trying to figure out what you're going to be shooting out of your gun. In my opinion, if you don't get as much compaction with these levers, I think that could change the way the revolver shoots. So I'm going to get this installed, get the camera turned towards the target. I flip the target over. Let's see where this prints with 20 grains of 3F shoots in. Well, really not much of a difference in group between the 25 grain and the 20 grain. Looks at this still shooting a little low right, but all in all, that grouping is not too terribly bad. So I'm going to go ahead and change out the target and shoot another 6 rounds. I think for the time being, I'll just keep it at 20 grains and see what happens next. Alrighty, I just finished loading all 6 rounds, and I kind of wanted to give you a visual as to what I was speaking to earlier. Here's the loading lever, and you can see this step right here. I'm going to turn the cylinder, let that drop in, and you can see that there's not a whole lot of room left to seat the ball. And I'm just imagining at 18 grains or even 15 grains that we're not seating the round ball all the way. And bear in mind, this is with all of the lead rings taking off of the loading ram. So I hope you guys can kind of see what I was getting at when I was talking about not being able to seat the ball all the way down with less powder than 20, because I'm afraid, and it makes sense, that this step would prevent you from putting as much pressure or compaction onto the 18 grains of powder as opposed to 20, because there's not a lot of room left. Alright, I'm going to get these caps put on here and we'll shoot another 6 rounds. I pulled that one. Okay, let me go and see if I can count them, because it looks like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know where the 6th one went. Of course, when I go back and edit this, I'll see precisely where it went. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the target over, reload with 25 grains, and then I'll probably call it a day at this point. Just so that we can see a difference, this is 25 grains of 3F shoots in. I'm going to just spin the cylinder. The round ball is already loaded, and you can see the difference in gap between 25 grains and what the 20 grain was. I'm very confident that the round ball is seated very tightly up against the powder charge. Now I need to also note right here that I just ran out of my 3F shoots, and so I have 1 round in here that I loaded my remilled 2F Elephant, reground it down to 3F, and that ball actually seated a lot deeper in the chamber. So I'm going to try to shoot that one first, because I'm not sure where it's going to go in conjunction with the other 5 round ball. Let me get capped up and we'll see what happens. I forgot to mention, but I found one of the felt wads. I actually had 2 that made it all the way to the target and actually imprinted on the target, and you probably will see that or have seen that. The back of the wad, there's no burnt powder anywhere, but I will tell you, I can still feel the lubricant that's on this wad. So if you're still looking for a good source of wads, pre-lubricated wads, don't forget to find me over at our Etsy store, Lame Beaver Trading Company. She's getting dirty. As it looks right here, that wasn't too bad of a round. It looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this round belongs with this group right here. But all in all, that's not too bad for a brand new revolver, and having done what I did to it to, make it shoot like this. And I think it's going to illustrate why I myself don't like messing with the sights until I've run about 100 rounds through them. Then I'll go ahead and, adjust the sights. So thanks for watching, and I hope everybody will have a blessed day. Bye.